So my name is Jasmine, and my why question is, why should we value an animal's life? So like ever since I was little, I was so obsessed with dogs. Like I would talk about them all the time. And did any of you ever have to like write short stories in grammar school? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like put them into these books. Well, like each year I would write about dogs, like dogs having birthday parties, dogs, dogs sleeping over each other's houses, and dogs, like anything basically we can do as humans. I did it just that dogs were doing it. So like I guess I just kept pestering my mom about wanting a dog. Like I kept asking her like, please, 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 can we get a dog? And she was like, having a dog is a lot of responsibility. Like you have to walk it, you got to feed it. You gotta clean up after it. I'm like, yes, Mom, I'll do all that, I promise. And then, so finally we went to an animal shelter right by my house because she's like, one, adopting is cheaper and it's better to save a life than get it from a breeder. So we went and we found this dog named Jumbo, but he was like a white poodle thingy, like he was tiny. And we were filling out the paperwork so that we can adopt it. And the lady was reviewing over the paperwork, and she was like, where are you going to keep the dog? And we're like, oh, in the basement, but it's not done right now. And so she was like, oh, I'm sorry, like, we can't give you this dog if you're going to leave it in an undone basement. So I was devastated, and I was, like, about to cry because I was so close to getting the dog, and, like, I don't know, it just crushed all my hopes and dreams. So, like, a couple months after that, we went out to eat one day down here, and I noticed the Anti-Cruelty Society a few blocks away, so I told my mom if we can go look at dogs, just look at them after breakfast. So we did, and we were looking for a German Shepherd or a Husky. So we were walking around and we saw this man, and he was walking a German Shepherd just to like check it out. And we're like, oh, we'll just wait for the man to stop looking at the dog so that we can look at it after. So as we were walking out of the page at the place with all the cages, we noticed like on the last cage that there was a tan dog, and she was like hiding all the way in the corner, and she was a German Shepherd mixed with a Husky. So we're like, oh my gosh, she's perfect. So like her name was Chicken at the time, like on my page. So we took her out and played with her, and we asked the person like, oh, like why is her name Chicken? And she's like, oh well, when she came in here, she was very timid, like she didn't want anybody touching her because her previous owners had like beat her and abused her. So she was very traumatized. And we decided to take her home. We changed her name to Honey. And we noticed at home, like, she was very, like, traumatized, like, because we would hold up, like, the broomstick you used to clean, and her tail would go in between her legs. Like, we couldn't go near her with that. And, like, she isolated herself for a couple of months, and, like, I was even afraid to go near her because she was crazy. Like, I thought she was going to bite me, so I didn't go near her for a while. But now she's happy, and but she still barks at like anybody who walks like by the house. Like she's still a little crazy, but we trained her a bit, so she's okay. Yeah. So I did my research, and I found out that in 1984, 17 million dogs were euthanized, and that basically means dogs were put down or killed, and 90% of those dogs were adoptable. And in 2015. 524,000 were brought into the ASPCA shelter. 35% of those were adopted, 31% of those were euthanized, and 26% were returned home to their owners. So like, I'm gonna be talking about like how we can reduce the amount of dogs that are being euthanized, and also yeah. So that's next slide. So I interviewed a lady from Pause because. Pause is one of the very few shelters that is a no-kill shelter. So that basically means that they keep the dog for as long as possible so that they won't be euthanized. And also, has anybody ever stepped into Pause? Yeah, like, you know how it's very open and very like they're not in cages, but they're in rooms where there's like windows on all four sides so that the dogs can get light in, and it's so pretty. And also like they get daily walks, and Pause also has pet clinics, which I'll talk about later in my solution. So, also, like, thinking about, like, why so many dogs are killed if they can do they can do so many things. Like, there's a whole bunch of service dogs that help people who are blind, people in wheelchairs, people with mental disability, like illnesses, and just people with disabilities in general. And there's also army dogs who, like, you know, they sniff out the bombs so that the army guys won't get like exploded or whatever. And also similar to like the K9 unit, it just is there to protect the officers if somebody's trying to attack them or things like that. So my solution, I have 3 different solutions. So my first solution is to renovate the dog shelters like there is in Paws. So that basically, I want to have like dog shelters where they have like huge fields and they can let out the dogs for more than an hour, so that not only is that helping them with like associating with other dogs, because my dog is really bad with other dogs, and that's why we can hardly walk her, because she might bite somebody or bite the other dogs. And so that would help with like also them with human contact, so that when adopters come in and check them out, that they'll want to take them home because they're so friendly. And also make sure they're I don't like cages, like just make sure they have an actual room, and then with like coming in like they do have at Paws. So my second solution. So Paws also has these clinics where you're able to come in and spay and neuter dogs, and they specifically put these clinics in areas where there's a high population of dogs. So you can, like, the people in that community come send in like the stray dogs so they can get spayed and neutered, so that it'll stop them from having babies and creating that abundance of dogs. And then there'll be less dogs in shelters, which will mean that there'll be less dogs being euthanized. And my last solution, I kind of just made it up. It's not real, but maybe I'll create it in the future. I called it Puppy Boot Camp. I mean, it doesn't have to be a puppy, but like basically taking out dogs from shelters who haven't been adopted, like who've stayed in there for months. We'll take them out of there and train them to be service dogs, like all the ones that I had said, because they're worth more than just sitting there and being euthanized